Should there be a union for Uber drivers and Lyft drivers? Short answer, of course. And people in Boston are doing just that. So I'm on boston.com right now. As you can see right away, 500 plus rideshare drivers to caravan across Boston to push for union rights. I'm a huge fan of this, one, because I think there should be unions for Uber drivers and Lyft drivers for a lot of different reasons I will talk about. And two, shout out to Boston. That's why where I initially started driving, right? So I feel like this has like a very close feel to me. You know, Boston's really what kicked off my Uber and Lyft journey, so to speak. You can see right here that drivers are set to ride up from Dorchester up to the State House Tuesday morning. Going down here, the big thing is they want to pressure lawmakers to pass a bill that would allow drivers who work for companies like Uber and Lyft to unionize. And this is a big thing. Rideshare drivers, I find, usually get put in this like weird side category. Same thing happened here in California, unfortunately, where any type of independent contractor gets some type of rights except rideshare drivers. It's weird. Rideshare drivers are among the only workers in the state, this is true I think for a lot of states, denied the freedom to unionize, right? I mean, this is kind of ridiculous. Now, and as we all know this, after years of enduring decreases in their earnings that can leave them making less than the state's minimum wage, drivers are demanding that state officials pass a groundbreaking rideshare drivers justice bill. The jointly filed bill would be the first law in the nation, and this is huge, to provide drivers who work for companies like Uber and Lyft with a direct path to unionization. It also includes a guaranteed minimum wage. Side note, in California, we now have that. I think a guaranteed minimum wage should be a federal thing. It should be the entire country. It's weird how, and I've mentioned this in a bunch of other videos, just legally, how different states and cities have different laws that vary from other states. It's kind of weird. That's kind of an odd thing in America. And I find for almost any other job, it's never been more prevalent than when it comes to rideshare drivers. And so this is big, right? You know, like I said, we have a minimum wage, or guaranteed, minimum wage here in California, but not in Massachusetts. So it includes a guaranteed minimum wage for rideshare drivers and job protections such as unemployment insurance, discrimination protection, paid sick leave, workers' compensation, and paid family leave. This would be groundbreaking, right? Now, in case you live under a rock, you probably already know this, but why do rideshare drivers want to unionize? If you look right here, they face financial hardships due to having to pay out of pocket for gas, car maintenance, and other work-related expenses. And all the while, they don't have basic worker benefits such as paid sick and family leave. And many drivers who are both rideshare drivers or delivery drivers or both work over 60 hours a week to make ends meet. Massachusetts lawmakers have led the nation in labor reform before with the historic passage of the first in the nation union rights for home care workers. Let's take that to the next step, where labor leaders and app workers are now calling on lawmakers in the Commonwealth to once again make history. As you can imagine, I am heavily for this for numerous reasons. Gotta say, first off, shout out to Massachusetts for really kind of breaking ground here. And especially when it comes to rideshare driving, like I briefly touched upon, it is so weird how different states have different rules, guidelines, and whatnot. Here in California, for example, after Prop 22, I mentioned this in a bunch of other videos, drivers now have a minimum hourly guarantee, where if you drive and next you get no rides, or next you get one and you make barely any money, you still get bumped up, you still get a minimum hourly guarantee. That should be the same everywhere. And I think what's really unique about unions, one, of course, they're super important, right? We've heard of a lot of issues. I think like Starbucks had a lot of issues when a lot of workers try to create unions and stuff like that. Unions, I think, are very important for a lot of jobs, especially though in rideshare driving. And the reason why is, like I briefly touched upon as well, it's very frustrating that any single time there's a bill being passed for independent contractors, for people who do freelance work, for people in, I don't know, a given job sector or whatever, every other job gets covered except ride sharing. That's exactly what happened here in California. When I think it was AB 5, I believe, don't quote me, I believe the bill was called AB 5, they said, hey, all these independent contractors, these freelance workers here in California, which, by the way, a lot of jobs, especially, let's say, in the media industry, the entertainment industry, a lot of people get screwed over, for lack of a better phrase. And with AB 5, it protected them. And guess out of any job, of all the jobs that exist here in California for independent contractors, for freelancers or whatever, guess what job got the weird asterisk on it? Of course, rideshare drivers. And that was a whole thing that came about with Prop 22. And in addition with that, I believe, and again, my numbers may be off, so I want to say that. I believe Uber and Lyft spent around $30 million. $30 million to make sure Uber and Lyft drivers stay as independent contractors. Now, they tried to argue that, it's better for drivers, it's more flexible schedule, it's more this, more that. Nope. The only reason why they did this, much to be honest, is because they would have to spend more money out of pocket. They would lose money if drivers became employees. And I will say that there is pros and cons to rideshare drivers being employees or being independent contractors. That is definitely true, so I do want to say that. However, the biggest issue or the biggest con of being an independent contractor is you get no rights, no protection. I've talked so many times on this channel about drivers getting paid way less. You don't get paid sick leave. If, let's say, something happens to you and you can't drive, well, sorry, you don't have any money coming in. In addition, of course, deactivation is another thing I've talked about a couple times in a couple other videos. The list goes on and on and on, and you don't get any rights or really any protection whatsoever. And with ride sharing becoming more and more prevalent, becoming more and more of a job for a lot of people, there are so many people who rely on Uber and Lyft, it is necessary to be protected in some way or shape or form. And I think having a union and unionizing Uber and Lyft drivers, rideshare drivers, and delivery drivers as well, pretty much the entire sector of that kind of job industry, I think helps kind of give this middle ground where, yes, maybe you are still an independent contractor. However, you're not a complete, one-side independent contractor with no rights. You at least get some protection and you get some benefits, so to speak. And I think this bill can be a groundbreaking bill to kind of pave the way forward, like they mentioned, with paid sick leave, paid family leave, a guaranteed minimum hourly guarantee, and a lot more. This is something that needs to exist when it comes to rideshare driving because, like I mentioned in a lot of other videos, things for most rideshare drivers have gotten definitely worse. And with a lot of people driving full-time, looking to rely, and basically who do rely on Uber and Lyft for putting food on the table, for making ends meet, for paying bills, etc., this is a bill that's absolutely necessary. And, I've done so many videos kind of just talking about the pitfalls, the negative aspects of being a rideshare driver. And a big thing that's becoming more and more prevalent, especially in the past couple of years, is the legal aspects. There's been so much talk now, like I mentioned, about rideshare drivers being independent contractors or employees, and all the different subsects of that as well. Like here in California after Prop 22, how we're still independent contractors, but there's all of these unique clauses now. And don't get me wrong, a lot of them are beneficial, but I think having unions for rideshare drivers and unionizing both rideshare driving and delivery driving is absolutely necessary. And huge shout out to Massachusetts and all the drivers there again, especially because I originally started driving in Boston. This is something that I feel I resonate very strongly with. Again, not only because I think unions should exist, but also because, hey, it's Boston and everything. This could be a groundbreaking move, and I'm hoping that this does pass, and this really lays the groundwork forward for a lot of other states and potentially the entire country.